welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pony drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message at the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Wan Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try enforcing some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 787 of the Trinity Force Podcast. I am your host, as always, N.A. Eric, and tonight we're talking through patch 12.21, as well as some world stuff, because if you weren't aware, semifinals happened, and they were great, and finals are coming up this upcoming weekend, so we'll talk about all of that. But here, we got the usual crew on. We have John and Fenrir. Fenrir's Discord has been crashing some, but he is back now, so we may intermittently lose him. We'll try our best. But John, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Pretty much everything business as usual. I was super busy the last, few weeks, but should be a little less busy now the next few weeks or so. And so pretty much just waiting for hearing back for residency stuff beginning of January.
Gotcha.
So
How many places have you applied for and done interviews for or anything?
I applied for 4 and I did 3.
Okay.
So, but
Gotcha.
they go on, I think, till like some of the schools go on till, as far as interviews, I think till December even.
Okay.
But so yeah, I'm just kind of waiting for that to decide as far as whether I'm gonna do that or just jump into private practice. So
Gotcha. Are they all in like in your area, or would you be looking at schools and then moving to those?
they would be like, I would be moving
Okay.
for 3 of them probably. It would be, yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So,
And
but
if
they
you
would
were
be like general area though. They're like all in the southeast.
Gotcha. Okay. Nice. If you were gonna go private practice, then are you saying like you're gonna start your own, or would you join an already established practice? Like, what were you thinking there? If you don't mind my
I
asking.
would join already established.
Okay. How does that process work? Like, how do you like, hey, I want to be a dentist here. Like, how does that even work? Do they post like jobs like dentist wanted? Like, how does that work?
Uh, it just honestly really depends. Like for example, though, what I would do is, I know there's like a ton of people that I like shadowed prior to going to school. Um, and that I know pretty well and who I've like talked to about like practicing with them like down the road. So
Sure.
I mean it really just depends. Some people will just like move to a completely new city, and then there's like each like the board for each state has like a job listing thing where people will do stuff. But so sometimes, like, I don't know, it's kind of like you have to really seek those connections out.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Cool.
yeah, I guess it's just entirely like situational though, depending on like, because like some people will have like a family friend who was a dentist or something and they'll work with them, or like,
Sure.
there were probably 3 people in my class who their parents were dentists or like in or specialists, so like they would go on to work with them.
So they had
But
guaranteed jobs when they were done. Nice.
yeah, exactly. So they were pretty fortunate,
Okay.
but yeah, it really just depends.
With so here I'm gonna nerd out for a second, but I took some when I was in my master's program. I took some classes on like occupational licensing and stuff, and some of the
Mhm.
things we talked about are how like different licenses don't and so don't translate between different states. There's different requirements, and just because you're
Right.
licensed one place, you're not necessarily licensed in a different place. So like law is like iconic for that. Different states all require different. You have to take different bars and such. I remember cosmetologists were like that. Is that a thing for dentistry as well, or does that not apply?
So it's kind of weird because it's slightly nuanced in that way because there's like a testing agency that most people do that covers like it's like most of the southeast. I would say it's like 27 states.
Okay.
And then there's like another one for like the mid I think actually some in the Midwest accept that one too, but then there's a different one in on the West Coast. Um but it's just a different like agency. The test is like essentially the same. It's really just more like
Who do you give your money to?
yeah, it's like there's just like those agencies exactly that are basically like uh I mean, that's like the only agency that does it, you know. So it's like you have to go through them to even take the board and whatnot, of which there's like several components. So like there's two written components, which is like a 7 hour long test each, and those are like your after your second and third year. And then you have a clinical portion. There's two clinical portions as well that are after your third and then your fourth year. And then once you pass all portions of whatever the test is, I mean, the agencies are essentially the same. Then you get like you apply to your board to get your license. So then they like verify all your information, like the where you graduated from and whatnot, and like all that, and then they issue your license.
Okay.
But it's like every uh every state is like slightly different, in how the process is done. It's basically the same though. Essentially the same.
For when you're doing clinicals and stuff, because that
Mhm.
obviously means like proving that you know what you can actually like perform dental procedures and things.
Yeah.
How do they find test subjects to like get a cavity filled and get a root canal? Like how do you find volunteers for that?
So like you have to so there's like a screening process. So like the part of it is like at the school when you get stuff done, it's at a reduced price compared to private practice. It's like
Oh,
about 50 to 60% of the cost otherwise in private practice. So like that's one draw of it. And then the other I guess thing is like so for the board, it has to also be like very specific things. Like it has to be a specific kind of filling. So it has to have certain criteria. So like the patient has to be screened to like make sure that the like that it's actually the procedure that needs to be done. It's not like something that's like really small either, you know what I mean? Like so that you're barely doing anything. But so like that, and it's like um I think it's even like for a board patient, I actually think it's even cheaper is the other thing. Um and then not only that, it like they get a like good bit of work done in like one day, which is nice. So what would be done otherwise probably in like two is like done in one because it's like a all day thing for the board because they're like having to obviously have it graded and whatnot.
gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's like some of the stuff that I guess I've wondered about with the wonderful world of dentistry and never known.
Yeah, that's a very long day though because it's a lot of like doing it and then obviously there's like a process where they're having to wait in line to like have it graded, have what you just did graded. And
Oh, so there's like a line of people that's like, oh, now I'm gonna look in your mouth and see what happened. Now I'm gonna look in your mouth and see what happened. That sort of
well
thing.
no, it's more like you do whatever procedure you're doing for the board like in your operatory and then like a person will like come and they have like a bunch of graders like in a different like area, but on the same floor, and they bring the patient to like the area where the graders are, and then the graders, look at your, what you did and grade everything, and then they go back to you, and then you do the next procedure.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's like because of that, just like the logistics of it and whatnot. That's also why it's like a all day thing because like that process takes time too because there's generally like 70 to 80 other people taking the test.
Yeah.
But
Okay. That's super interesting. So, well, I'll make sure to note down in the notes that we have a solid 7 minute block on what
yeah.
all this dentistry stuff, which is super interesting. I mean, I'm sure everyone likes to hear more about hosts and stuff like that. But okay, other than work, like how's league been going for you? Have you been playing much lately? Have you seen like what's been happening on the Rift?
Oh yeah, I mean, as far as like I've just been playing for fun a lot recently. I mean, I've been playing a good bit of ARAMs. I've been playing like a bunch of normals with my friends. Playing like a little ranked on my Smurfs. Just honestly, just trying stuff out and trying to have fun with it more than anything. Uh, but and not take it too seriously. But but yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. Fenrir, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. No camera today. It's Discord's not having it.
Yeah, I saw that. So that's fine. We'll just look at you going Super Saiyan and imagine that's what's happening.
Yeah, I do look a little bit like Vegeta.
You have said before that you have the Vegeta hairstyle, which is why
Yeah.
you wear a hat quite often.
Oh yeah.
Okay. How's life been for you, man?
Good. Just working as always, playing some league. I'm gonna make a big. I've got some time set out this weekend. I'm gonna do everything I can to get to play out this weekend on my main, so that I can just kind of. My next goal is to play every champion 5 times.
Are there champions you haven't played? Other than
Uh,
Kasanti,
no,
because he just got released.
no. So I've played every champion, but I want to start from A and just play every champion 5 games. I want
Okay.
to. It's kind of the start of my off season. I really want to get better knowledge wise at the game.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. That, I mean,
That's
that's
and
a
that's where
great
I'm going to start with it.
that's a great goal to have. Like that's why I like whenever I see a new champ come out, I play around with them in practice tool. As soon as we're done potting here, I'm gonna hop in and go into practice tool and play around with Kasanti because I didn't play around with him at all yesterday when I played. But see, what can you flash buffer? What can you like try out all sorts of those combos and things and see what sort of just see how it all plays out. Um, it's super important. Like I don't know when there's new champions that get released. I'm always surprised when people are like, "Oh, I've never played with that champion." Like, why wouldn't you at least like hop into a practice tool and just like see what it does, even if it doesn't interest you at all? Like Neela interests me zero. I don't want to play that champion ever, but I at least played a normal game as her, and I played in practice tool, and I was like, okay, this is how this works. Gotcha.
Yeah, it didn't take too long.
No, not at all. But yeah. Okay. Cool. I have been just playing. I've been playing a lot of fun as well, or for fun as well. Been feeling like I'm getting a good bit better at Zoe support. I've been playing a lot more of that. I'm still playing jungle. I played some ranked, and I'm into plat 2 now. Finally, like, but I haven't. I just haven't played that much. But I got a notification on the client that the rank season ends in 2 weeks. It ends on November 15th. I don't know at what time, but I'm going to try and bust my butt to get up to diamond before then. So I'm going to be playing some ranked definitely this weekend and next week and stuff to get up there. That's my goal, is to get there, or at least get to. I mean, if not, I'd like to at least like feel like I gave it a good run and I put in enough time and effort and solid practice hours to try and do it. If I don't make it there, fine. I've been, busy with other stuff. I had a busy summer. I've been running the podcast, whatever, and I've gotten a lot better at other roles as well. Like I used to be really bad at some other roles, but this year I've gotten a lot better at support, a good bit better at ADC, and better at top as well. So I feel like I'm a more well-rounded player, even if I don't have the rank for it, and that's an accolade in and of itself. So, yep. Okay. So we got two topics that I announced at the beginning. We're doing Worlds and Patch. What should we cover first, gents? Should we just go through the patch and then talk about Worlds, or talk about Worlds and then fly through the patch afterwards?
Let's just kill the patch real quick.
All right. And I say, and we address it like that because this patch is very minuscule. It's done purposely because preseason is going to be dropping. It might be the next patch that happens. I'm not sure. Or it might be, because this is 12.21, it might be 12.22, or I guess then 13.1 would happen. I don't quite. Oh no, that would be next season. I don't think that preseason starts there. So it might be 12.22, might be 12.23 that preseason starts, but it's starting soon. So in any case, patch 12.21. We looked and didn't think there were any significant bug changes to note. There's some sweet skins which we'll get to, but overall there's 3 nerfs, 4 buffs, and an adjustment for Ornn, and we'll see what we really think of that. Kasanti is also out, and we will cover him more in depth in a separate podcast. Not going to go into it here as he came out yesterday, and we haven't had enough time to properly evaluate and understand what's going on with his kit. How does he actually feel to play as, with, and against? So we'll cover him next time. But Kasanti is out, so give him a try. And his visuals look very cool, and the skin that gets released is cool. But let's see. So the first change I'll go through. It's Ari. Her Q mana cost is down by 5 at all ranks, and the AP ratio on her Q is up by 5 percentage points. John, what do you think about this change?
I mean, I think that this might bring her back, because she was super popular, a few patches ago, and then with that nerf, I don't know. I mean, I think this will bring her back a little bit. I mean, it's just a small buff.
Fenrir, do you agree?
Yeah, I don't think it's too much of a change. It's like good for the damage and everything, right? But I still think she's just like a pick artist, if that's the words you want to use. She just really thrives in like chaotic games where she can charm somebody and then her team can 100-0 them.
Yeah.
So it's just nice for her to get a little boost in damage.
Yep, and some more mana in lane 2 is always nice, especially early, because late game this doesn't do anything. And this is always your first max as well. So level 9, you're saving 5 per time you throw the orb out. I looked at her win rate, and over the last, because she hasn't been changed since patch 12.17, as the devs note here, and over the last like 2-3 patches, she's had a roughly 49% win rate, and now she's at 50.5 with a pick rate increase as well. So she's being picked more, and I mean, again, 1 day into the patch so far, but it seems like the buff has helped and done what they're looking to do. Just give her a little bit of a nudge and not make her take over the game like should have happened before. But yeah, that's the rest of Ari. John, you want to go through Belveth for me?
Yeah, sure. The E cooldown is being increased, and then her Void Remora health are being decreased, which are her little babies that she spawns whenever you get Rift, and then she has like her ult form and kills the minions. Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot like people have been complaining about that for a while now, as far as like those things being very difficult to kill. But yeah, I mean that'll be nice. And then I mean, as far as her E cooldown, like I mean that's the strongest part of her kit, one of the strongest parts of her kit. And I mean that's a little nudge as far as a nerf. So I think that's a good thing. Honestly, she's been really strong for a while now.
Yeah, I'd agree for sure. So, I mean, if I'm just looking at win rates specifically, she's dropped about 0.5% or so. So not that much. These changes aren't that large, but I do agree that these are some of the strongest in the case of the E and the most annoying in the case of the Void Remora part of her kit. So I think everyone is fine with these changes. Maybe not a Belveth player, but even then, I don't think this really changes that much of her power for people who know how to play her well and can. This is, yeah, those Void Remoras are too tanky. It's a problem when you're hitting them on and off, or mages are trying to hit them and it's not doing much damage at all. Those are some supercharged Yorick ghouls that are flying at you. It's nuts.
Yeah, when you can like get that form and then push it, like kill the enemy top laner or something, and then push like 3 waves. I mean, it's like you just annihilate turrets. It was wild. They could. I mean, they were taking like whenever it first came out. I remember they were taking like at least a turret shot each too. Whenever there's like 20 of them there. So yeah, I feel like this was. I don't think anybody will complain about this.
No. And even with this E change here, she's not using E twice in a fight. It had a 16 cooldown at max rank. And to my knowledge, this isn't even her first max, I don't think. I think she maxes Q first, but
Yeah.
so this wouldn't even make a difference until uh like level, I don't know, level 12 or something. You don't feel this, but even then, you're not using it twice in a fight. You're using it once at a strategic point. If it's a really long skirmish, you might use it twice, but unlikely. Okay. Um, that seems to be Belveth. Anything else to add, Fenrir, or nope?
Nope.
Cool. All right, then I will let you cover the Great Steam Golem, Mr. Blitzcrank.
Purple with the rocket fist propelled grab or whatever those guys said.
Oh yeah. Well, for context, we're talking about yesterday. Fellow podcaster Bomo competed in the Victoris GG finals of their amateur league, and their team did not win. Unfortunately, we were rooting for them, but one of the analysts there was fumbling over his words, trying to figure out what Blitz's Q was called. Which, when we looked at it on the wiki, it's just rocket grab. It's quite simple. I thought it was like rocket propelled fist, and I don't know, he was going back and forth and trying to figure it out, and the other guy was not helping him. But eventually they moved on, and that was the good point. But, anyways, I digress. Fenrir, tell us about the Great Steam Golem.
So his base health is going down and base magic resist is going down. And then the overdrive bonus attack speed is going down at all ranks.
So, what do you think this means for, I guess, first for support Blitzcrank?
So it makes his like mage matchups a little bit harder in the bot lane, but like I'm sure it probably nerfs his win rate a little bit, but you're not like if you're taking damage as Blitzcrank from an Enchantress or like a Spellcaster, then you're not playing Blitzcrank correctly in the bot lane, so that's your fault. Like I don't really think this is a huge change for him in the bot lane, or at least it shouldn't be. But it probably is because people don't know how to position correctly.
So, in regard to win rate, in the past, so patch 12.19, he was the best support with an 11% pick rate and a 54.3% win rate. So that's a lot, and he was banned a quarter of the time. Last patch, still the best support, 53. So his win rate went down, his pick rate was the same, and his ban rate went up to 34%. So far on this patch, his ban rate is still a third of the time, and his pick rate is a little bit down. His win rate is down to 52.2. So it's really down by like a couple points relative to patch 12.19. That's support Blitzcrank. Now jungle Blitzcrank. John, do you want to tell us what you think about how that impacts him, how these changes impact him, if at all?
And yeah, it'll just be slightly on the bonus attack speed. It'll hurt his clear a little bit as far as he's missing out on the 10% attack speed. But I don't know. I mean, I think that it was more targeted for support because I mean he was just like a menace. Like he was just the fighter CC Blitzcrank support. It was so hard to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. And support blitz is so much stronger based off the changes. Yeah, his win rate has gone down, but he was already statistically the worst jungler. He had like a average of like a 45% win rate, and now it's at like 43.5. It's still, I mean, it's still banned a lot, but the ban includes jungle and support. I ban it sometimes. It's just really annoying. People don't understand how to position against him. But yeah, he got significantly worse in support, or he got a little bit worse in support and a little bit worse in the jungle. He's already bad in the jungle though, so maybe don't play him there. There's better champions to play. But um, yeah, his ban rate is warranted. Blitz is so annoying to play against.
Yeah, it really
It can
is.
be bad for 95% of the game and land one hook that changes the game.
Yeah. What do you? So if a blitz gets locked in as support, and you know it's support, Fenrir, what do you typically like to pick into it?
So I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago, but I really like Galio into the Blitzcrank because it kind of forces him to not just like blindly throw his Q, especially if as I'm playing Galio standing anywhere near it, because it just gives me a free avenue into his entire team, and I can land pretty big taunts. I mean, you can always go with like the tried and true Morgana. You just have to have the fast enough reactions if you're playing against a good Blitzcrank to black shield properly.
Sure. That makes sense. I like to ban that or Leona when I play support because I like to play mage supports or Pike.
Leona is pretty good right now.
She is. I'm curious. What is her win rate? What do you guys think it is?
Not, I think it is either at 50% or just below, and I think she's like a rated B tier support.
Okay. Well, you are right. She is, according to u.gg, she is rated B tier and has a 49.65% win rate and was about the same last patch and about the same in 12.19. So she's balanced.
People aren't playing her properly either.
Do you want to expand on that?
So I think a lot of people think Leona is like this lame dominant support that you just want to exert all of her CC to try and kill whoever you're laning against. But I think the proper way to play her is the moment you get level 3, you need to use your health bar as a resource and force the bot lane to back at a bad timing. Push the wave in and then recall, and then you need to either immediately go find your jungler or like try and make a quick roam mid. And you just need to constantly be doing this like rotation around the map with Leona.
Okay. I mean, when I've played with you with it, it's remarkably effective. Yeah.
Yeah, she just gets sorry, I guess I'm in my throat. If she gets stuck in a lane, she like becomes worse and worse as the game goes on. Because if your AD carry is the only person ahead on your team, it's great, but at the same time, if you go in, right, the only person that you have to kill anybody is your AD carry. So you need to get your jungler and your mid laner ahead so they can follow up on your engages.
So you want to share the love. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, the next change that we have is Corki. Health growth increased, AD growth increased. He's getting 4 more health per level growth, and then AD growth up by 0.3 per level. He's going to be slightly better. He's still not going to be great, is my thought. Do either of you disagree with that at all?
I mean, I think that these are like, I mean, these are pretty small nudges. I mean, I think he was pretty weak though, so I think he needed. I mean, I don't have any problem with it. I just think it's small buffs, like very minuscule.
He's got such a low pick rate. He's 1.5%,
Yeah,
and his ban rate is 0.2% right now. His win rate did go up, um, by like actually not a lot. Oh my god, statistically insignificant amount. It seems like because 12.19 he was higher, 12.20 he was lower, then 12.21 he's in the middle. So it doesn't seem like this really changed him very much.
yeah. I think it was just a very small change. So I don't know. I don't think it's a whole lot. He just hasn't seen much play.
Yeah, he almost got picked in semifinals. They were hovering him and thinking about it, or at least
Mhm.
maybe just hovering into troll. But he got shown. So there's that.
He
But
almost had his chance.
he almost did. All right. Well, we'll move on to the next one then. We'll move on to Malzahar. John, do you want to cover Malzahar for us here?
Yeah. Malzahar, his E can now execute minions. So if they're below 15 to 45 health, and it's like scaling from 1 to 11. Um, I mean, that's just like small quality, like that's a quality of life change. I mean, I feel like that's super nice for him. Makes early game farming super easy because I feel like that was like it sometimes could be an issue because like early game his E does like no damage, and then if you didn't do it when the minions were like insanely low, sometimes it would mess it up. So that would be frustrating. So I mean, that's just a nice quality of life change, I think, especially early game for him.
Yeah, when I saw this, I was like, thank God, because I could not. I can just see memories, or I can just remember exact times when I'm throwing down those, and I don't have my voidlings out, or they got killed, or maybe they're hitting them still, but it's really, really, really hard to time killing the minions when your minions are hitting them, and the voidlings and the malefic visions are out there. It's really hard to time it. So the fact that this will just execute it is so nice. So you don't have to like perfectly watch it and manage your auto attack too. It's that's a really nice change. I don't think this is really going to
Yeah,
change him all that much. It's literally just a quality of life to help him farm more. So it's gonna help him be able to get through some of the early game better with more farm.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Um, that's it for Mal's. Fenrir, you want to cover Misfortune since these are some support changes, it looks like?
Misfortune's not a support fucking player in the bot lane. Unless you're playing ADC, it's fine.
She's
So
in
the
when you go into the client and you click on the support, she's
yeah,
listed as
yeah,
one
yeah,
of the
yeah,
played supports there. She can
yeah,
be a
yeah, yeah.
support.
Yeah, well, and I'm pretty sure Aurelion Soul isn't listed anywhere. So
Really?
I think there was for a time he like had such a low play percentage that he wasn't listed in like any of the tabs.
Hmm.
It was like a little bug.
Okay.
But so the EAP ratio is increased. The initial slow is decreased. So the magic damage is going from so the base numbers are staying the same, but the AP ratio is going up 20%. And then the slow is going the base is going down, but the percent per AP percentage is going up by 2%. And then the damage per wave is just getting an AP increase by 5%.
On her R, that is there, yeah.
Yeah, on the
Okay.
bullet time, sorry. I don't know. You can probably figure it out by the way I started. I don't like AP Misfortune. Uh, I think, although I don't like it, it's healthy for the game that they allow champions to have multiple builds, and I do wish that they allowed it a little bit more. But I don't like AP Misfortune just because it can be not necessarily irritating to play against, but like very uninteractive, and I'm not a fan of uninteractive gameplay where she could just walk up E, run away, walk up E, run away.
So you're saying you're not a fan of Poke Ash then?
No, not at all.
Did you guys see that? Sorry to tangent off, but they're shipping some changes to ARAM, so Ash will now start with -20 ability haste.
That is hilarious,
I know.
and I love it. I'm so for it.
At the same time, though, they're giving a bunch of assassins 15% bonus tenacity, and energy regen is going to be doubled or something like that, or maybe a third increase or something. And then, yeah, they get some extra resistances or something. Assassins do.
That's probably a
Oh
needed change.
yeah,
I like that.
Rengar was named in there, so he will be
Maybe
getting
he gets
those
some
Oh.
damage
changes.
bonus, John.
yeah, or
You
maybe
can't
I
do any
will get a
damage
one
with him.
shot. Yeah, that tenacity. Thank you, Riot, for that tenacity. I'll take that.
The other ones that were listed, some of the comment section was going wild on Twitter. Was Pike was getting those changes as well as Kha'Zix was as well. Kiana totally needs it. Like Zed and other ones, I don't know, but like all the energy champs are getting it, except for Shen not getting any of that stuff. But he's very different.
Yeah, I can see how people are like, Kha'Zix is getting this. This is an outrage.
That's true. A Fed Kha'Zix can absolutely destroy games, as we saw last night.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah,
thank you.
definitely.
You're welcome for
I
the
wish you
carry
would have
there.
killed that Elise a couple more times.
That Elise was she was so goddamn annoying. Ah, this is a game we were playing last night. It was nuts. I mean, there was an Elise who was trying to gank a bunch, and I was sacrificing some farm to making sure that I was matching her map movements, and then she would she ganked top a couple times and killed Fenrir, and then she would be like, there ended up being like some typing back and forth, and she would be like, oh, you mad and stuff, and then I was like, enjoy being out. It was like 12 minutes, something like, enjoy being outscaled in 3 minutes at 15, and then inevitably, like at 15, 20 minutes, like I could just murder her and one shot her, and then she was like team difference and blaming her team. This isn't a 5 stack, by the
Hilarious.
way, in norms. This was 5 stack, so I was surprised by that. But there was some toxicity happening in their post game chat as well. So they were maybe not a 5 stack, or if they were, don't treat your friends like that. Jeez. But anyways, back to misfortune. John, do you think this changes anything for like misfortune in the ADC role at all, or no?
Not really, no. I don't think so. I mean, it's all like AP scalings and stuff. Like, I don't know. I agree with Fenrir as far as like AP misfortune. I just find it like kind of uninteractive and like there's not a whole like even when you see it coming, know she has it, it's still like kind of difficult to dodge. I mean, it's just like there's very little counterplay to it if you don't have like a spell shield or something like that. Like if she wants to hit you with it, that combined with her W movement speed, like she's gonna hit you with it. And then if she has Leandries, it's like, what are you gonna do? So I don't necessarily care for that, but like Fenrir was saying, like I'm all for like different builds and stuff. Like I don't know if they're doing some cheesy stuff like giving Twitch some AP ratios, give Rengar some AP ratios. Do some fun.
We've
Play
seen
some
that. We
AP
don't want that
Rengar.
again.
I don't want AP Rengar. No,
John, I don't think you were around for AP Rengar, were
he
you?
I
was
mean,
not.
no, I
No,
wasn't, but I've seen it. I've
Okay.
seen it.
The W one-shot pentakills. Let's
Yeah.
not go back to
Oh
that,
my god.
please.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's just
Do you
I think
do
it's
you think this is enough for her to so say she's playing ADC, right? Is it enough for her to go back to that Leandries into the ADC build that she was going there for a little bit?
I mean, if I'm like I don't think it's good enough to do that because I would much rather have either Kraken or Eclipse as a mythic on Misfortune, and not only that, like if I'm like just insanely ahead on Misfortune ADC, like I'll just buy, and I like want some AP scaling, I'll just buy Dark Seal or something. I feel like, and then I just get some benefit from like I feel like it's not enough benefit from this buff to warrant like putting an entire like gold's worth, like items worth of gold into it. But I don't know. It also depends, like if it's like a team that they can you even walk up against the enemy team or whatever. I don't know. It just depends.
Yeah, I
But
think this
I
would
don't think
be
it's very much.
it would be a different story. I think builds might change some if there were items that gave AP and AD, but those don't exist anymore. So then, because then I could totally see, like, let's assume there was like, old Gunblade or something, right? Like, she doesn't need the healing, but the AP and the AD would be nice to splash some of this, because then you're getting both benefits off of it. I mean, it might be a little weird to build, a full lethality and then build a gunblade, or build full AP and then build a gunblade or something. But I mean, it would be lining up with what they're trying to do. They're trying to introduce these build diversities, but they don't have the items to support that infrastructure. Is kind of what I'm thinking with some of these champions they're doing this to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's whatever kind of. I mean, it's fine that they're doing it. Just see how it is, I guess, as far as um like AP misfortune. But I don't know. People like to do this in ARAM too. So
Yep.
as far as that build.
All right. Well, that's misfortune. I don't think there's any discussion warranted for Ornn here, and I'll read why. So Ornn, his R is updated. The maximum slow used to be 40, scaling to 60 with each rank of ability. Now it's 60 all the time, and this would seem like it's a buff. However, Riot notes in their comment that this is a bugs that end up becoming a feature. Ornn's ultimate has been inflicting a 60% slow for some time now, always. And now this is just an official feature. So they're just changing it to make sure that it's always 60. So there's actually no substantive change at all with how Ornn has been acting. It's just the tooltip and how I guess it's now officially coded that way correctly. So there's no actual balance change. Do we need to talk about this at all, or no? Just keep moving.
No, I think keep moving.
Okay, cool. So the last change here, this has been a quick patch, as we said. The last change is Xin Zhao. His passive third hit bonus AD ratio was increased. His heal AP ratio was increased. And his E cooldown was decreased. So the E, the simplest one, his cooldown was 12, now it's 11 seconds. And then the passive, the AD, the bonus AD ratio was increased. It was 50 up to 45% of your bonus AD. Now it's 50 up to 60% of your bonus AD. And that's also the third hit where he slams his spear down and it heals him. And the heal went up by 10% on AP. So it's now a little bit, you're going to heal more with higher AP levels, and you're going to deal more damage with higher AD levels. And there are reasons to mix in like a Nashor's Tooth or other things like that with Xin Zhao. But my initial thoughts with this are the E change is nice. His cooldown felt a little long. This is nice. And yes, he does have the cooldown decrease with his Q, which each of the 3 talent strike decreases the cooldown of your abilities by 1 second flat. But he doesn't build a ton of ability haste generally, so it's not like he's using everything all the time. So this helps. But this other stuff, maybe I could see a world where, and you guys are already going to hate this as it's coming out of my mouth, I know, but what about this build of a tank mythic and Nashers or Bork or something? I think that might make some sense on Xin, and people haven't been trying it. I haven't tried it myself, and we saw what happened with my Kennen experiment. It was garbage. For the record, a couple patches ago, I talked about maybe going Nashor's Tooth, Frostfire, Hullbreaker on Kennen. It's bad. Don't do it. But I personally can attest to it, and Fenrir was in that game too. I was useless, but I could see a world where he builds some AD and AP items and some tank stuff and just kind of like mixes in whatever makes sense at the time, as opposed to going full bruiser or full lethality or maybe full AP if you're feeling it. But I don't know, like I could see that being a world. Am I crazy for thinking that?
I wonder if he can go a Sunfire Demonic into Nashor's Tooth build.
I think he could. Well, do you want Nashers or would you want Bork?
Bork at the end. I mean,
so
or
all
maybe,
4 of them. All 4.
You would have to build that into bruiser team comps though. Like you wouldn't be able to do that into a poke comp.
Mm-mm.
You wouldn't be able to do that into like really bursty comps. You would have to do it into comps that have 3+ melees.
Yeah, you need to be the tank.
And no peeling supports or / maybe like Lulu or Soraka.
I think also that would have to be a thing not for jungles in, because you wouldn't get enough gold to do all that, but if you did it in lanes in, you could do that. If you went top Xin Zhao and did that.
Yeah. It's probably getting a little too big brain. I mean, it's only a 10% AP buff on the heal, so maybe it's really not that worth it, but
His win rate has gone up 1 whole percentage point in the jungle, with his pick rate increasing by 2% so far.
anytime you can find champions that are able to run Sunfire Demonic, I think you need to give it a chance.
Yeah. Abuse that combo while you can before preseason, and then we find everyone's building that one which increases your health permanently and does true damage. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
It's like Gigantor or something like Leviathan, or I don't really know what it
I
is.
think they're bringing back the Leviathan name because that used to be an item.
It did. But anyways, John,
Do
you
you
were gonna
know
say
about the
something.
Leviathan?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, do you know about Leviathan at all?
Like the
No, I
old one?
don't. No, I'm just excited about I mean, I'm just like seeing Spearbs like Shojin is gonna be, I think, just insane on some people.
Well, Fenrir hit us with it. What was Leviathan?
So the old one, it was like Magi's, but for tanks.
Oh
So
my
it would
gosh.
it would stack. Was it just resistances or was it health as well?
I thought it was just
Uh,
health, but when you added a max stack, you took like X% reduced damage from all sources.
Okay, yeah.
like
And
a
so it was like you would build that and then 5 Warmogs and you'd just be unkillable.
oh my gosh, that sounds so gross. It
I
sounds like
Thankfully, I think
yeah,
they got
dark.
rid of it before Atmas was
Yeah,
brought
they did.
in.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because that would have been
I mean,
just disgusting.
yeah, that and then like I feel like having the like basically Anthem as chains like passive, small passive on top of that is just like so annoying.
And I think it only stacked to 20. It didn't stack to 25
I
like the
thought,
other ones.
yeah, well, all of them stacked to 20 at that point, I think.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe they only stacked to 15 then, because it was less, I would think, than the others.
oh, maybe. I remember always wanting to make it work and could never quite make it work to play like Akali or someone that could use AP, AD, and health.
All
And,
3.
yeah, build all three Sword of the Occult, Leviathan, Magi's.
The
Or,
fucking 3 pieces of
Yeah, the whole
Exodia. You
yeah,
exactly.
know?
the
Exactly.
Trinity.
And then you get the bonus move speed, which was on Sword of the Occult before, the bonus like damage resistance on Leviathan, and I don't remember what Magi's gave. I think it was like cooldown reduction or something at the time. Because now it's
CDR, yeah.
now it's movement speed, but it didn't used to be that way.
No ball Trinity.
Yeah, exactly. So it either works or it really doesn't. Yeah, and back
Die
then,
once and you're just like no longer a champion.
yeah, and
Yeah,
back then you lost everything on death. You didn't just lose a percentage or a flat amount of it. You lost everything.
I just think it's so funny. The very first time, like when I was like newer to the game and I didn't know what Dark Seal was, I remember like like someone in game had gotten one and I was like they were like pinging and I was, like slightly confused. And then someone was like, why would you get that if you're gonna play like that and like die? And the guy's response was, you gotta risk it for the Rari. Just thought that was so funny.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyways, that was Zinzao. That's it for the patch, folks. There's nothing else. No important bug changes. There's some sweet skins. And I personally think that I'm pretty sure it's meant to be this way, but there's Empyrean skin line, which is like we were saying before, it's like you had people on LSD draw characters from League and then they turned it into champions. And they all look pretty cool. But Prestige Empyrean, so it's an Empyrean skin line. Prestige version of that for Casanti looks like it's almost looks like it's Lil Nas X inspired, and maybe it's supposed to be, but it looks like it is. Is it actually? Okay.
Yeah, it's like supposed to be his skin, I guess.
And then it's also like looks like it's like cyberpunkish.
Yeah, it does. It looks sweet.
It does look pretty cool.
Yeah. But anyways, that was the patch. So, do we need to take a quick break and then hop over, or are we good to hop right into semis and talk about finals after that?
Let her eat.
Okay, so let's talk about the more straightforward semi of the two first. It was T1 versus JDG, and I'll put in the... Okay, so if anyone hasn't watched anything, doesn't want to know, spoilers are coming. Okay, there's a few seconds, so now we're good. So, T1 3-1 JG. They beat them 3-1. They lost the first game and then won the following 3. Almost everyone had T1 to win. I believe it was like 90% or so had them to beat JDG. If I look at the pick'ems there, 82.5% of people in pick'ems had T1 over JDG. So that was the one that went as expected according to the community. we all watched those games. So, okay, Fender, what'd you think of it? What'd you think? Like, give me your thoughts on the series, man.
All right. Which one did you start with?
I
Because I
start.
got confused last week.
Oh, sorry. I started with T1 versus JDG. We have
Okay,
not
that's what I
addressed
thought you said.
DRX Genji.
I
Yep.
just I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
So, overall, it was a pretty good series until JDG just kind of thought they were out of it at the final games. Like I thought all the games were really fun, interesting. The drafts were really fun, which I think we all kind of talked about that we were super hyped to watch the drafts between these two teams. I was maybe a little sad that JDG had no answer for Lucian Nami, and I kind of expected more from JDG, and they didn't seem like they were up to it on the day.
That's absolutely that's my thoughts as well. They didn't have an answer for Lucianami. Hope was running it down. He always decided that he had to be as far up in mid lane as possible on Aphelios when he was behind on items and kept getting nuked by whether it was Nocturne in the jungle, which owner played, or Lucianami deleting him, or Sejuani or something. He just kept getting nuked. Camille coming in. Other than that, yeah, I was listening to the English LCK casters. They have their own podcast called the Pog State today, and I was listening to it today, and they summed it up perfectly. Missing, unfortunately, lived up to his name and was absent the whole series. Um, and I thought that was the perfect way to encapsulate it. But also, Yagao looked straight up invisible. Like I forgot that they had a Silas in when he was playing Silas quite often, or like I forgot he was in that series. He didn't seem like he was there. And it's not that Faker like hard gapped him. He wasn't really hard gapping him like what was happened with other mid laners in the tournament. It's just that he made himself known and Yagao kind of didn't, you know? And top lane was great. That was a fucking brawl. And both junglers, that their interactions were great, but bot lane and mid lane were overall like complete stomps through the series. Uh, and top and jungle kind of decided who won the games generally. If JDG had done better in some of the other games, they would have won. Okay, that's such an easy thing to say, but like if they had actually been able to have Hope do anything, and if Yagao had actually not been invisible, then they would have probably made it a 3-2 or maybe even taken the series, honestly. Because I thought JDG had better drafts most of the time too. But those are my thoughts. John, what'd you think?
Yeah, I thought Fenrir's assessment of it was pretty good. Like the games were good, but then it like came to a point where like I guess they kind of just were they just felt like they were out of it, and um I don't know, it seemed like the intensity for them dropped a little. So, but until then, I thought they were good games. Like I mean, there's definitely some, like you were saying, some stuff that you know they left the play left some to be desired as far as just like getting caught out with like classic stuff like Nocturne and whatnot. But yeah, overall I thought it was good. But T1 was pretty decisive in their win. And I thought they looked great. I mean, I thought that they looked very coherent, and they just looked like they were playing well together. So I mean, I think um, it'll be cool to see because it looks like they're in good form.
Yeah, and right, yeah, they seem like they're in good form, and JDG didn't have an answer for their high tempo 1-3-1 style when they were picking Camille or Gangplank, and they were picking. I mean, what did Faker play? He played Akali, and then he also played. I think he had Azir as well, which was less 1-3-1y, but they pulled out. They started playing Rise as well, which ended up I think getting banned in game 4. Like they just straight up banned the Rise, which like Rise is such a overall a bad champion right now, but I guess they were able to leverage him super, super, super well. Like that Baron sneak was great. Rise is a sub 45% win rate right now. He's not good by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you can make and if you're good at a champion, you can make them perform well, but still, it's easier to do that with a champion that's actually got a decent amount of power or fits well in the meta right now. And Rise does not do that all that well, but they made it work, which is really impressive.
He's also Rise is really good in the team comps that Faker decided to play them into. Like the first game they played, JDG picks Silas, Aphelios, Lulu, Belveth, Malphite. There's nobody on that team that can attack Rise outside of Rise's range.
Yeah.
And so when Rise, and I mean, you can't really CC the Rise because you have a Lucian Nami that will blow you up if you don't CC them. So the Malphite's priority is on them. And he goes in, he's building nothing but armor because he's going up against a Yone. And he just gets one shot by the Rise Gallic gun, And you said that JDG had better drafts, but I honestly think T1 draft gapped every game except game one.
Okay, so game one they did not. I just don't have Aphelios Lulu should beat Lucian Nami throughout the course of the game, but they were playing it so poorly where it wasn't happening. Hope was getting caught left and right. Missing was getting caught sometimes too. Then they didn't have the proper support, but overall, it just wasn't. They weren't playing it how a pro team should play it to make it work. Because Lucian Nami's it was a lot better in before the electrocute changes with Nami. It's still fine, but it has a clock on it. Like you can't if once you get to 35 40 minutes once Aphelios has 4 items or so, like you just almost always want Aphelios more. So like yes, they did draft Lucian Nami the first 3 games, and then game 4 they didn't. They picked Varys Tom Kench, I think, or Varys, what did they pick in support?
Renata, I believe. Let me look so I can tell you.
Yeah, Varys Renata.
Yeah,
So
Varys Renata.
right.
So yes, Lucian Nami should lose to Aphelios Lulu, especially Hope and missing Aphelios Lulu. They're like probably one of the best Aphelios Lulus in the world. Aside from like Dogdom playing Aphelios, because he's just like an Aphelios one trick. But I think the reason why it worked for them so well is the way that Guma was playing Lucian. Anytime that he's seen anybody that didn't have more than 2000 HP, he was instantly Gale Force ulting onto them. Now he wasn't full engaging on it. He was just using as much of his damage to keep the tempo on the map. It was crazy. It just felt like they had tempo the entire game. And Guma had 1.2k damage per minute.
Whoa.
On average in this series.
Jesus, I did not realize that.
JDG's highest was 369 at 700.
Wow. And they put him on Malphite and Renekton in 2 of the 4 games as well.
Yeah.
Or did he play Renekton twice?
He played
Malphite 2, Renekton
Jax,
game
Malphite,
3.
Renekton, and Sejuani.
Okay, so he was on Renekton and 2 tanks, and he still had the highest on their team. That shows how little the rest of the map was showing up. Kanavi played well. It wasn't Kanavi's fault at all. It wasn't 369. It was the bottom. It was mid and bottom that were absent.
Yeah. And then like kind of going back to the Lucian Nami, yes, it's not as good in draft as we probably think it was, or as well it was played. But I think where they actually draft gapped all games with game 1 is in the top side picks. It felt like every time they picked top mid jungle, they were either A, counter picking or getting a good matchup, or they were just picking 3 champions that synergized better than JDG's top side.
True. Yeah, it did feel like that. And the one game they lost was some close fights, and it was Kanavi's Viego that got super far ahead. And we all know how oppressive Viego can be when he gets ahead. So it wasn't surprising that he was able to roll over that game. But otherwise, it was still T1 had tempo, as you're saying. It felt like the whole series. Even when they were not doing all that hot in game one, they still had tempo up until they decided to fight into an Elder Dragon team when they were trying to do Baron. Like, I get the desperation, but they just threw the whole game at that point.
Yeah, I think they knew the game was over. And going back to game one, I think the reason why they knew the game was over is because they had no answer to kill the Jax. Your damage dealers are Lucian, Vi, Camille. All Jax has to do is counter strike, and you can never damage him.
Yeah. Yep. Any other spicy picks or anything else that we wanted to talk about with this series? There wasn't
I
anything
think
crazy
T1 going
spicy, but
forward
yeah.
is a lot harder to play against because they really didn't show anything. I mean, yeah, they moved around the map, they played the Rise, but other than that, I mean, you've seen Lucian and Nami almost the entire series, and they didn't do anything crazy. It seemed like. I mean, they kept the game chaotic, which I think was good to do into JDG. Because if JDG does get a stranglehold on a game, they are good enough as a team and team fighting that they can turn anything around.
Yeah. Yep, and yeah, like you said, they didn't really show all that much of stuff either. Like, yeah, of the junglers that owners played. I mean, people aren't going to ban out him, but they already. I mean, he played Viego, Vi, Sejuani in this tournament. He's also played like Lee Sin. He's played some Graves as well. Like, it's been straight up meta stuff. He's not been playing anything crazy. Faker, yeah, pulled out Rise. Other than that, he still played Galio, Lissandra, Azir, Silas, and Akali, like the staples for this meta so far. And then in top, yeah, they played Camille and they played Gangplank, and they were fine blinding him sometimes. But still, there wasn't anything crazy that came out. Like, you know what sort of champion Zeus is going to pick, but you just can't answer them well. Like, they just couldn't answer it. And it's
Yeah.
going to get worse for the finals matchup as well.
And they pressured the top side like so much. It was every time you looked at the screen, Zeus was getting ganked. He was getting two-manned. I mean, not even ganked. Sometimes they just had three people topside just to make sure that Zeus didn't do anything, and the dude still was useful. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I called it last week. First team to pick a tank is going to lose. And JDG picked the tank first.
You did call it.
Yeah, I think it's crazy just how much like pressure he can just eat top. Like he'll just like sit there, do his normal thing, and just eat that pressure for breakfast. Like three people up there, just like preventing him from doing anything. But then they just get so much like relief elsewhere, and they can do other stuff. Like he's been very impressive.
Yeah, he's been extremely impressive. And he'll have a much more fun time in the finals matchup. But before we talk about the finals matchup, let's talk about the other semifinal, which was arguably crazier. Actually, not arguably, it was crazier. Not because of some of the games so much, but because of the results. So DRX against Gen G. DRX beat Gen G 3-1. Just like in the first series, they lost game 1, and then they came back and won games 2, 3, and 4. So Deft has made it to finals, and it's Deft versus Faker. Apparently, they were in high school together, so it's like that's kind of cool. But yeah. So John, what do you think of this series, man?
I mean, I thought it was really fun to watch. Um, I mean, DRX looked impressive. I mean, Kingen, looked really good. Who's he playing? Like he played Gragas. Um, Kiosic, I thought played overall pretty well. Like he was on what Kindred, and then what's Sejuani?
Yeah,
Or no, he was on Viego.
it's hard to remember
But
because the same junglers have been filtering through the same champions this whole
yeah, that's
tournament.
true. Um, but yeah, I mean, I thought it was really fun to watch, and then I think the mid lane matchup with DRX T1 is gonna be fun to watch with Zeke and Faker. Um, I don't know. I think it'll be. I'm I'm kind of glad that they won. Honestly, I think I just like seeing something different for like the final.
Yeah, Yeah, I think the mid lane's going to be great to watch, and it's worth noting that Chovy, who is people like he's kind of considered to be the best laner in the world, lost lane, arguably, all 4 games as well. And he got solo killed by Zeka a couple of times, I think. And he also just looked so disconnected from the rest of his team. Like there was a team fight, I think, in like game 2 or game 3 or something. And Chovy's pushing mid lane, and then he finishes killing the minions and then walks over, and the fight's already over. Like, what are you doing? Like there obviously there was some sort of call, and he's like, I'm almost done. I'm finishing the minions, but he just has this compulsive, like we've talked about this before, he has this compulsive to need to pick up every single possible CS, and then okay, yeah, then I'll fight, sure, but he's like PvE first, PvP second, which is fun when you're playing like Minecraft, but this is not Minecraft. So I don't know, he seemed all out of sorts there. And Ruler looked great, I will say. Ruler looked great. Lehens looked decent. Their bot lane looked good. Genji's did. DRX's looked also quite good. They were, I'd say, pretty evenly matched this series. Top lane, I'd say, like you said, John, Kingen looked better than Doran, partly because of the picks, but also just because Doran's not a good top laner. So I'm glad that he didn't get carried by Ruler into finals.
Yeah, I think also like the bot lane matchup for DRX with T1 is going to be awesome to watch. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just 2 exceptionally good players.
Yeah, and then you have 3 rookies, or 3 people. This is their first year playing, and then they've all made it to Worlds Finals in Zeus and Kingen and Zeka as well. None of them, or no, not Zeka. Who am I thinking of?
Yoshik.
There we go. No, Poshik's been around for a couple
No,
of
he was
years.
there last year.
He's been around for a couple of years. Yeah, he was around for 2 years or so, I think. But I can't remember right now. But there's 3 rookies, and all of them none of them have made it to. This is their first season playing, and they've all made it to Worlds Finals, which is really cool. So, yeah.
I think Zeka is an LCK rookie because he started in the LPL.
Yes, he is an LCK rookie. So then maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, Fenrir, what do you think about that series, man?
So last week I said I had pretty good faith that Lehens would find something into the Heimerdinger, and I think that's why they lost this series. The fact that they had to ban Heimerdinger every single game because they didn't have an answer to it just allowed DRX to have a power pick every single draft. Also, they're on blue side, and they're banning Aatrox. That
Yeah,
should be a red side ban, not a blue side ban.
agreed. That shows you that either Genji doesn't know how to draft, which I'd say is partially true because they're an LCK team, or they don't trust Doran to beat Kingen when he has Aatrox, which is also probably true because Doran sucks relative to the other world's top laners.
Yeah, so or it's just I mean Doran just can't play it is what it really boils down to. I mean it's probably a little bit of all 3, right? But I think the main thing is Doran can't play the best top laner at the tournament, and that is a huge problem for your team. The fact that you have to ban Aatrox so that red team can ban away another power pick from your side, and you have to ban the Heimerdinger so they get 2 picks every draft first phase that they
And
want.
and when Genji's on red side, they have to ban Yumi.
Yeah. So I was pretty upset with the series because, yeah, game 1, Genji wins, but it felt like after that, Genji just like gave up. They had the game a little bit, like I'd say halfway to 3/4 in game 2, and then they lost. And after that, it just seemed like they turned their monitors off and were ready to go home.
Yeah, games 3 and 4 was a blowout. 3 was also kind of blowout-ish. Like game 4 in both series were kind of stomps. Game 3
Yeah.
in T1 JDG was decently close, but not so much. Game 3 in DRX Genji didn't seem that close to me, honestly. And I think also DRX had better drafts almost all the time too.
They gave Deft Caitlyn. That's the one player in the world that you don't give Caitlyn
Yeah.
because they have to ban Heimerdinger, Aatrox, and Yumi. It
Yep.
just, I don't
And
know. I was so frustrated with Gen G. Not the fact that, like, Pick'em's aside, it's just, how does this team get to semis and this is what they perform with? It's just,
yeah.
it's upsetting that this caliber of team just has no prep for this game. It really felt like they walked into this game, oh, we're just the better team. All our prep is ready for T1.
Yep. That's definitely what it felt like, for sure. They're like, okay, the only prep we're gonna do is, hey, we'll ban Heimerdinger. That's it. And that didn't work. They also they couldn't deal with Kindred all that well either. They didn't like. There are a couple times. I mean, there's one significant part where there was an Elder Drake fight, and Pioshik ults Elder Dragon so that it doesn't die, and Peanut smites it like a second after the ult goes down. So he obviously didn't register it or doesn't understand how to play against Kindred. I mean, he's one of the best junglers in the world. He understands what Kindred does and how to play against it, but he brain farted or isn't practiced in playing against it. So then he smited it. Then great, Pioshik gets free Elder Dragon secure, and then I think they won off of that push or one push right afterwards or something. It changed that game as well. But there were just instances where they didn't feel practiced enough to play against some of this stuff. It just they didn't look good. They peaked in LCK summer in the finals. That was their peak when they demolished everybody, and great. They had a great summer. Props to them. They didn't look good this tournament. They didn't. There's a reason I didn't predict them, and my pick'ems are still perfect in the knockout rounds. Woo, woo.
Yeah, I was down on Gen G when they came into the tournament. I almost wanted to pick them to not get out of their group, but there was just no way that they weren't going to get out. That group was too weak.
Yeah.
And I also think they would have been on the other side of the bracket had RNG not got COVID, and they would have been knocked out in the first round against T1.
Yep, they would have.
And I think that's what frustrates me more than anything is that because RNG got sick, they got put on the strong side of the bracket. And I do think that RNG showed enough that they could have won this side of the bracket.
Probably. They at least could have made it to semis, I think, for sure.
But I also don't want to make this into like a rant that Gen G is terrible. DRX played well. They have played well, and they are on a just train that's just
Yeah.
continue to power up all the way from play-ins. And I don't want it to make because we all are kind of all shitting on Gen G, which is we should, right? They're the first seed. But I don't want to take away from what DRX has been doing because I mean they played great
They did.
in
Yeah,
3.5 games of this series.
Yeah, they absolutely deserve to have gotten here. They've played great the whole tournament. People have been down on them, including myself at different points, and they've done super well. And all props to them. They've made it to finals. I mean, you can see in some of the stuff that they've released, they didn't think they were going to make it here, but they've done great and they deserve it all. And honestly, this finals has not the two best teams of the tournament. It has the two teams with the most momentum going into the tournament because T1 is one of the best teams, but they've also had a lot of momentum. They've lost what they lost one to JDG. They lost one game in groups, and they've lost two games the whole tournament. DRX has lost more, but they played more games. But overall, they've still had a very strong trajectory. So this should be a very strong finals, even if it goes 3-0 one way. It's still going to be, I think, the most competitive games that we'd see anyone match T1 with. Other than that Fnatic game where they got absolutely draft massacred and didn't play it out all that well in groups. But I'm excited for this finals. And I'm going to be seeing it in theaters in a couple of days. So on Saturday, it's going to be fun. What are your guys' plans for finals? John, what are you going to do
I'm
for
just
finals?
watching at home.
Okay. Just gonna.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna watch it at home.
Any friends coming over? Do you have any friends nearby that watch League or care at all? Or
Uh, I'll see. I'll see what other some of my friends are doing for it. I have a few friends who play League who are nearby, but I don't know. You're going. What you have the theater setup that you're going to?
Yeah, there's one. Well, there's like two within like 10 miles of me, and so I'm going to one that's less crowded. And I may be going, at this point, I'm going solo, but my cousin might join me. He might not be going. It's just if he goes hunting this weekend, then he's not going to go. But if his ride up to my grandpa's place where he would go hunting on their grounds, if that doesn't come through, then he'll probably go with me. So it might be two of us going. It might just be me though. But yeah, the
You gonna
lol.
smuggle in something?
I'm
Any snacks?
I'm
You
planning on
smuggle it
it.
in this Taco Bell.
Yeah.
I was gonna say every time I go to the theaters, I smuggle in 4 bean burritos in my underwear. It's great. So I'll probably
Weirdo.
do that. I'll probably do that some because it's gonna be like 4 hours. I'm not gonna pay fucking movie theater prices for all their shit food the whole time. I'll get some popcorn, sure. I'll probably also get like a large soda and refill. I'm thinking I've been feeling ginger ale this week. I've had some ginger ale earlier. Like I'm feeling like I'm gonna get just one of those gigantic cups of ginger ale. It'll be great. But
Bean burritos is very specific.
that's what I love from Taco Bell. It's so good, and I don't know, like a lot of the other stuff I try, it's a little too salty for me. Like when like cheesy bean and rice burrito, like those are good, but it's salty, and I'm not a big fan of their hard tacos or soft shell tacos. Even Mexican pizza doesn't do it to me. Their cinnamon twists are good, but like a lot of the stuff on Taco Bell's menu, I don't like, despite them being my favorite fast food restaurant. Just because I love their bean burritos. Ugh, I could go on forever, but
Dang.
I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
need to.
not a huge Taco Bell person, but when I go, the Gordita Crunch is the that's my go-to. I don't know if you've had that before.
I
You should
have
sneak one of those in.
I have not. Is that something that I could sneak in, or does it have like sauce and things that I couldn't?
I mean, it's like it's pretty compact. I
Okay.
mean, I would say not 4 bean burritos. Do the two bean burritos and a
Okay.
Gordita Crunch. Give it a whirl. But it's very pretty filling, I would say. But it's
Okay.
like imagine like a soft shell wrap, but it's like a circular thing, and it's like a hard shell taco on the inside.
Oh, so is it like a crunch wrap with a hard shell on the inside then?
Yeah, basically,
Okay.
basically.
Their crunch wraps are good. I've had them before for like non-breakfast items, and those are decent. But I do like Taco Bell's breakfast crunch wraps. They're super good. I would honestly recommend it. Like overall, as far as fast food breakfasts go, Wendy's giant bad no. Burger King, giant bad no. Don't do it. Big farts. Don't do that. But McDonald's, pretty decent. Depends on what you get. Like, and sometimes it's better than other times.
Hash brown hits sometimes
They
though.
do. Sometimes they're also not good though. They're kind of inconsistent from what I've found. But Taco Bell, 2 thumbs up for breakfast. Always, always, always good every time I've had it.
Chick-fil-A
You're a
is
fucking
the true
psychopath.
goat.
I am not a psychopath, sir. Just because I enjoy Taco Bell breakfast does not make me a psychopath. Thank you. Although I would agree that I'm a psychopath in some way, in that I like to run outside when it's super hot out. So people have called me a psychopath there. If it's like 100 degrees, as much humidity as possible, and sunny and bright sunny, like that's fucking perfect to go exercising outside in. So if that makes me a psychopath, that and Taco Bell breakfast, you know what? I will own it. Anyways, so if any of you listeners want to try to go see the Worlds in theaters, you can find it on. There's a link to it on like the Head LOL Esports page. There's an article about it, but you can also go to lolintheaters.com and then go from there, find a theater near you if there are any, and then go through that theater's local website to book something. But I think it should be pretty cool. I'm excited. Either way, this is going to be a great finals. It should be pretty good because the semifinals were entertaining, but overall kind of a letdown as far as gameplay. And I think that's kind of the consensus. So we should get some sweet finals, and then we will talk about it next week for that. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we call it a wrap?
T130.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Predictions. Okay, T130. Okay, cool. Okay, why? Oh, so hold on.
Fastest game time.
Yeah, why?
I'm going T130, fastest game time in Worlds.
Fastest individual or like average across the three?
Like total game time between all 3 games, fastest. Like It's gonna be the fastest series that's been played at Worlds.
Oh fuck. Okay.
So don't get me wrong, I love DRX's like triumph to greatness, but Zeus is so far and away better than Kingen.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think that there's a decent gap as well. I mean, Carry is better than Barrel, and to your point about
Easy.
okay, I think he's better than Barrel. He's not necessarily more inventive, but to your point about what happened with Gen G, I think Carrier does have an answer for Heimerdinger, and we will see it. So
I think so too. I think it's the Zyra that I was talking about last week. But I think top mid jungle is better for T1. Not necessarily that that Faker is gonna just gap Zeka, but Faker's not gonna do what Chovy did. He's not gonna just let Zeka kind of run around the map and do whatever the hell he wants.
yeah, in
Onu's
exchange
good
for
enough, and his
minions, yeah.
champ pool is wide enough that I don't think the Kindred pick is gonna matter. And Guma is way better than Deft, but I do think that Beryl is the reason why this team is in the finals. Beryl is my MVP for the tournament, personally.
Barrel over. I mean, okay, there's a lot of hype for Zeka. So why say Barrel over Zeka? Because those are probably the only two real options for. Okay, or Zeus. Those are probably the only three real options for MVPs for tournament. So why would you say Barrel?
So, to me, the MVP is not the best player individually; it is the best player for their team. Without Beryl on this team, DRX does not make it this far. It's not being talked about very much, but Beryl is back to back to back world finalist on two different teams. We seen that in the Dom 1 series, they lost because bot lane fell behind too much, right? I think Beryl was a large reason why Dom 1 went on the tear that they did, because he is the type of player that can rein in and kind of hone these very raw players and get them to do the macro things that need to be done. And I also think Beryl adds an element to the bot lane that there's not a lot of supports in the world that can do it. Kyria is probably the only other one that really does it like Beryl can.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. John, what's your prediction?
I'm gonna say this is just like gut feeling. I'm gonna say 3-1, T1.
Okay. Why 3-1 T1? Other than your gut. Anything
I
else that
bet
backing it up?
you. I just feel like I bet you DRX wins the first game and then T1 wins the next three.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like they're gonna ride off the hype, play, super well the first game, and then I feel like T1's just gonna chip away at them, just wear them down.
I think it's also going to be a 3-1, but T1 will win. They'll trade game ones. T1 will win game 1, then lose game 2, and then take 2 and 3. I'm guessing there's going to be like T1's going to beat DRX with something, and then DRX is going to salty run it back and actually do it correctly and then win. And T1 will totally fall prey to that draft. And then they'll lose, and then they'll change something about what they're doing so that doesn't happen again, and then just outright beat them the other 2 games. So that's my thought.
I think if DRX wins one game, they win it.
Really?
Yep. One game is all this team needs to just have the fire actually carry them through it. That's why I predict Rio. I want T1 to win, and I think they're better players. I think they're a better team, but I think DRX has enough hype behind them that if they get one game, they have enough to take it.
Yeah. Right now, 84% of people are predicting T1 to beat DRX. So there's 16% of people are hopping on the hype train and thinking DRX. I'm not predicting DRX here. So, yeah, but we'll see. I do think that's a good point, that they have so much momentum that if you give them anything, they're just going to take it and run with it. So it's dangerous there. Yeah, but we'll see. So it should be a great final, and we'll all be watching at our own individual places, and we'll give our thoughts next week about it. But that has been episode 787 of the Trinity Force podcast. Remember to join us on Tuesday nights for community game night at 7:15 Eastern time. It starts and runs for a few hours. It's always a good time. Please check out our Patreon. We have a whole array of different benefits and different at different prices, so go check those out. Other than that, if you have any feedback for us, please leave that in the feedback thread of our Discord, or send your questions and comments to questions@trinityforcepodcast.com. And that is it. So thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next time post Worlds.